Americans will now have broadcast television from local stations at work, at play, and on the way. Coming to local stations in top markets, live in local news, sports, weather, and traffic, plus your favorite television shows. Mobile digital television. Never miss a minute.
Another question?
Hi, Greg James, KSL TV in Salt Lake City. Thank you. Good morning. I have two questions, actually. The first is, have you been able to develop a predictive model for coverage that you're comfortable with? I haven't seen it. I asked because the first translator hop I have is 117 miles from my main transmitter, and I have 122 translators that cover my area. I'm kind of intrigued when I represent this to my audience, how it's actually going to be received and how many calls I'm going to get when I don't have any cover.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, just start talking transmitter hops, and it's like.
I always get the hard ones. So far we have done our testing to try to rely as much as possible on the existing install base that an average station has. So we haven't necessarily assumed that we're going to have to be putting, tens of millions of dollars into repeaters. Now, the way I look at that is it's a little bit like it's sort of the equivalent of 1998 for video on the internet, right? This is sort of an early stage of this. And as we ratchet up the product, I think you're going to want to get to higher and higher service levels. So, but if you take the testing in Chicago, and is Pat Mullen here?
That's right.
Yeah. So Chicago, for example, has been interesting because Pat's been up and running, testing up there for some time, and so there, without doing any incremental, supplemental technical infrastructure installation, just by putting a little bit of hardware into the station, we had very good signal reception. I should say, Pat had very good signal reception. He was raving to me about it all the time on the phone, 40 miles away from his basically regular tower. So that's the starting point. So before you even get to the enhancement of service levels, the existing infrastructure that broadcasters have is very potent and can be enhanced for the first step with a very modest capital cost. Now, if you want to get to 100% service levels and full coverage, that's going to require a little bit of investment ultimately. But the average broadcaster represented in this room is going to be surprised just how strong the existing infrastructure can actually carry.
Let me make a point about Fox Chicago and Pat Station. We saw the demo here in this beautiful video that started this event off, and you could see Barack Obama on stage at Grant Park in Chicago. Can you imagine for people who are maybe on the job at that point or not able to get to a television set, who would be tuning in, and what would, if you could, I'm still waiting to hear a little bit more about the actual ratings and the ability to judge the audience on these things, but if you could judge that, that could change your entire advertising model. But again, personally, I am a little skeptical, and I'd love to ask John Epkus from NBC, do you have a belief, John, that you will be able to actually meaningfully move the dial on ratings, and how would you be able to test that? How does that work?
I do believe that this will be, this is potentially a killer app. I think the spectrum opportunity is huge. I think that there is already an enormous market based around portable video with iPods and iTouches and so forth. Just think of the economics that are flowing around that. When we add live and local, I think the opportunities are quite large. When you think about the young demographic moving through, I think we have an opportunity here that is very significant.
You mentioned iPods and iTouches, but it's really Dell that is ahead on some of these devices, obviously, Jim. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because you guys are already making the netbooks, and we hear these rumors that Apple's going to do a netbook, but you look at Dell, they're way ahead here.
Well, the typical American household has one living room, and yet they have multiple devices. As mobile TV proliferates into the range of devices we're seeing here today, whether it be in car or smartphones or netbooks or other devices, what you're going to have is a family with multiple receiver capabilities that they can take with them in different aspects of their lives, whether it be in the car or whether it be in a backpack going to school or on a vacation. So we do believe that additional eyeballs will be brought to the broadcast signal mobile TV reception capabilities proliferates into the devices that we're already comfortable with using.
Questions? There's one over here.
I have one follow-up. Just let me say I'm happy to hear the network's considering letting us carry some of the other programming like MSNBC and Fox News. I didn't know that until today, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Daryl Brown, McGraw-Hill Broadcasting has questions for Dave and Colleen. What conversations have you had with your networks that are affiliated with the various networks, your stations, to distribute their content on these devices?
To say we've had healthy conversations today. I think the fact that you see John and other networks represented in the Open Network Coalition states a real good cooperative framework to date on this, and I think we're moving along together on this in stages, and that's probably enough said at this point.
Colleen. I mean,
I'll
you've got different affiliations.
I'll just add to this that, obviously the networks are also learning along the way, similar to this group in the room. So there's a lot of discovery going on, a lot of understanding of how does this work, what does this mean, et cetera. And, I agree with Dave. These conversations continue to progress.
I actually have a question for Pat from Fox. Pat, raise your hand so we can get a microphone to you. Okay. What did it entail for you as a big station in a major market to get up and running with Open Mobile Video?
The installation of the technology literally took 2 or 3 hours.
What? Tell me how. What is it?
Well, I'm not the engineer. All I know is all they have to do is basically put an exciter and to the transmitter to be able to put it out in a modulation system for the mobile reception. It was a 2-3 hour installation. We're operating top of the Sears Tower at 1 million watts of power, and as Brandon said, we get reception 40 miles out. We get reception, say this, 75 miles an hour driving down the freeway. But Lower Wacker Drive, end of concrete canyons of downtown. What we found with mobile technology is that there's enough forward air correction that we actually have success in receiving it on a mobile device in places where you would not get it with just your standard DTV signal with rapid air. So it's actually better in many circumstances than what rapid air reception would be.
Brandon, when I worked at my first local market, WSYX Channel 6, on-air action news, we were this little number 3 in digging tunnel station where, we just wanted to be live, get out there, and I think our motto was first at 6, correct at 11. But when I look at these gadgets, and you can have it live right here, it's very enticing, and imagine you don't even need a return monitor, you can just have one of these. But for a local station that isn't as big as 1 million watts on top of the Sears Tower, what are the challenges? I'm asking you to be devil's advocate and say, what type of problems would they run into trying to adopt this?
Technologically, none. In other words, there's no technical issue. I think the issue is maybe sort of cultural in nature, because everybody is operating in a tough economic environment, and people don't have time right now for hobbies. But I think especially for local news, it's a great application because it's a way to reconnect with the audience that you may have lost. You may have lost the younger people who are out there that don't sit in the living room at 6 o'clock, to watch the news, but you may catch them on a mobile device that they have in their pocket. So I think it's a way to almost reassemble the audiences that perhaps have been lost through technological attrition in some sense. So I think that's the opportunity. Challenges are just raising the money, having the local general manager approve the $100,000 for the equipment, is certainly an issue. I mean, that doesn't come easy these days, but it's hopefully the power of persuasion of being able to extend breaking news, for example, in a mobile setting is key, especially when you have things like first responder type situations. Typically, people don't sit in their living rooms when there's either an earthquake or a flood or something like that. So there's a whole first responder argument that is a real motivator, I think. That also resonates very positively in Washington from people we've shared this vision with, and so that is another big opportunity.
How do you monitor?
Liz, can I just make a comment too, tying that into the earlier question about what will it take for stations to commit? I mean, there are a lot of members of the coalition out here. Well, I appreciate the comments about the groups up here. I think a lot of the vision for this has come from smaller broadcast groups out in the country who really represent their communities well and see how, for a while big dollars today, given the current economic environment, relatively small investment given what they've already invested in digital, they really are the ones who understand the future and the opportunity of this. And there's a commitment already to trials later this year. A number of, how many stations, Brandon? We got,
70.
70 stations in later test. All of those stations have committed to that additional capital already, and they're represented out in this room. So I would say that leadership and that understanding it already exists among multiple groups.
Some of the most entrepreneurial spirit actually is coming from the smaller groups. Capital Broadcasting is a member. I don't know if they're here today. They had a great announcement out this week that we should probably touch on for a moment. They announced that they were going to work with the local bus transit system to get the local broadcast into the buses, which is a great, a great entrepreneurial initiative. And if we can all share best practices around examples like that, then we can all learn from each other. If that model were to work, I mean, that's available to everybody to negotiate.